minute, don't know. Got a minute of your time. Got a minute of your. Hush, you gotta live right, and I'm never gonna let you out of my side. I've been knocked out, was a nice try, but I guess I get to keep my head on this time. Part of the creation, the relations I've got, the only one that keeps me safe, the only one you should trust. For sure, it ain't right that I have checked the speck of dust from all of its side. Fall down, that from my height, cause I didn't see the plank I have in my eye. Cup water. Dang. Hi everyone, our dearest followers. I know there's thousands of you out there.
We're going live right now. Go check us out.
Welcome to our podcast from
Maria and her.
Shush. Welcome
I'm
to
messing up Maria.
Oh my gosh. Welcome to our podcast from Vision.
Because she's here.
Would you like to
She
do it?
hears me. What? No, you're doing just fine. You're doing
ahead.
just fine.
Clearly, you're like,
No,
this is.
I'm talking to my people on Instagram. You can talk to the people in the audience there. Go ahead. I'm whispering.
Anyway, so welcome if
to
you're
the
new
podcast,
here.
people.
Do it. Go ahead. I'm looking for a new podcast co-host.
That's a lie.
And then what we'll do,
That's a lie.
because Miguel is the one that has all like the stuff, we'll just show up and ask him to just set it up for us, and then we'll be like, "Can you leave?"
Oh, so hang on one second. So you're gonna leave me. You're gonna create another podcast, and then you're still gonna hire me, or not even hire.
I don't hire you for what?
So I'm just gonna go.
Family doesn't hire family. Like
So, that's not true. But so you're gonna have me come in, set up all your stuff, and I'm just gonna be like, later, Herc, and then just
yeah, be like, you're more than welcome to comment. I'm just kidding.
so rude.
Just kidding. Welcome everyone to our podcast from Vision to Success. If you're new here, we do this podcast every Monday
At 10
10 a.m. We banter. Sometimes our podcasts are good.
They're always good. Like, what are you telling people? Log in, don't log in. It may or may not be good.
Listen, our podcasts are really, really good. Sometimes we do banter a little too much. Well, actually, you get to know our lives. And you get to know how we apply these principles into our lives. And by any means, we're not perfect. So.
And you get to see how between this relationship that I'm always right.
Okay. Sure.
9 times out of 10, I'm
100%. I agree. I concur.
There you go. See?
I concur. Like 100%.
So we had a scheduled topic today, and then Maria messaged me.
What was our topic was about anger.
Yeah, anger management.
Yeah, anger. Yeah. And then I was just kind of reflecting upon my week. I think we could cover anger as well. But
I want to know, because again, what we normally do is we get together and then we try and create a schedule.
Yeah.
Where one podcast topic will feed into the other one, complementary. But then last week, like Wednesday, you sent me a message and you're like, "Hey, I really want to switch the topic, and you want to talk about this specific topic."
Yeah, the why.
And the power of why. Why did that come up? Like, why did I?
Well, in all honesty, because I feel like in order to be able to achieve the things that we set out to achieve, it could be anything, we need to have a purpose behind it. And all reason is because I've been struggling. All the topics are... And the reason I've been struggling is because I started my second phase of 75 Hard.
You're doing that again?
100%. This is going to be a lifelong journey.
Why do you do that? I hate going out with you guys, you and Mike, when you're on the 75 Hard.
Why? You get to eat whatever you want.
No, you don't.
No, you do. I am mindful.
I get to eat, but you know how much stress it gives me, and I'm not even like your spouse.
Now imagine how Mike feels.
looking at going through the menu, and no, I can't eat that. I can't. By the end of the day, because of the 75 Hard, out of whatever it is in the menu, you can only pick like 1 or 2
That's
things.
That's not true. Well, okay, to your point, I do plan ahead. So it means that I do look at the menus ahead of time, and I ensure that whatever I'm eating falls into whatever I'm following with my meal plan.
One time we went to a restaurant, and there was nothing in the menu.
That's not true.
So she opens up her bag, and she takes out like all of this containers, and she starts eating off of her bag because there was nothing in the restaurant that could like you were able to eat.
True story.
And
That's not a true story, by the way. That is not a true story. I did not take away my Tupperware container.
Tell me, you did not. Was it you that pulled out the croutons or the bacon or something like that? You like a little bag because they couldn't.
First of all, I would not be eating croutons.
Okay, whatever it was something ridiculous, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, this restaurant didn't."
Yeah,
have it."
right. Please.
So when she suffers and the 7, I can only imagine Mike. I can only imagine
Mike does get
Mike.
stressed. I do have to say he's a great spouse. He's great. He's supportive, but he does get stressed. He's always like, "Oh my gosh, you're doing this again." But in all honesty, I do it because one, I enjoy it. I enjoy a good challenge. And then the second reason is because I feel whole. I feel like when I'm on it, I'm able to accomplish a whole lot more rather than when I'm not and I'm flying by the seat of my pants. I get in the door. Should I move?
I keep missing you.
I know you keep showing the door. But yeah, so back to the reason why last week.
No, I want to keep talking about the 75 hard thing.
No, it ties into 75 hard.
Okay,
so last week, remember when we were doing our podcast
whoever came up with 75 hard, I swear
I personally like him. His name is Andy Frisella.
Okay.
Kind of controversial. His political views are extreme. However, well, when I say extreme, my political views just don't align with him, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I am the type of person that I don't mind whatever it is that you believe. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
If you're putting something good that's good for me out, and I enjoy it, and it's working for me, I will do what you're telling me to do, like what you advise me to do. And he's the creator of 75 Hard. I love his mentality.
What's his name?
Andy Frisella.
Okay.
He's awesome. Again. If you are going to look him up with at your own risk. He is controversial. He does very opinionated. But you know what? I have to give it to him. He stands by what he believes, and he just doesn't care.
Yeah, I don't mind that.
Yeah.
See, I don't mind people having political views. I don't mind people having.
You just hate the 75 Hard.
I just particularly like that 75 Hard. It's the stupidest thing ever created.
Anyway, back to the story with regards to why the topic was changed. Last week, I think when you and I were talking, we did our conversation with regards to conflict management, right? I wasn't in a good headspace, I feel like, when we were doing conflict management. Because remember when you were asking me, like, well, if this person came up to you and they were like, do you want to talk? I was like, no.
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't want to. I feel like I was lacking empathy. Because that whole weekend, I had been so fixated on my problems, right?
Okay.
I wasn't solution-oriented during that weekend. I was very fixated on my problems. And when I came into the podcast, I kind of came in with that mindset. Now, I wasn't self-aware at the time. But when I left, I was like, man, like, this is carrying heavy. And then what I loved is that everything that I was doing that week, I'm huge into scripture study as well. And everything was about charity. Clearly
God's trying to tell you something.
100%. Like, it was about charity. It was about like malice. It was about like the intent of your heart and like being mindful of how you use your language and your words, right?
Interesting.
Yeah. So after that, I was like, okay, I'm like, what can I do better? And I started self-reflecting. And when I started self-reflecting, I thought about how much I was struggling through 75 Hard. I started on the Monday as well. I think it was the Monday that I came for the podcast, or maybe this is my second week. Anyway, I was struggling through it. I'm like, what the heck is going on? In the midst of all this and my chaos, I decided to do a brain dump. We've talked about this before, that when you're feeling overwhelmed and you have all these thoughts and feelings in your mind, I was like, okay, there's something going on. So I did a brain dump. After I did the brain dump, I was like, I focused on 75 Hard. I was like, why am I doing this? And I realized that I was struggling because I forgot my purpose. I forgot my why. Right? So there's this exercise that I love, which is called 7 Levels Deep. Like you and I have done it.
Yeah, we've done it before.
Yeah. And I did it. So the whole premise of the exercise is that you ask yourself 7 times why. But it's not like you ask yourself why for the first question. It's like, you know, why do you have this goal? So then you answer it. I have this goal because X, Y, Z. And then you ask the second level. It's like, okay, why to the first answer that you gave?
Yeah, why is that important?
Yeah, why is that important? And I love it because it gets you out of your head. So much when we answer questions is based on the top of our heads. It's not really based with our emotion. And when we want lasting change, we have to tie in our emotions, right? So anyway.
Which I find interesting because everything, when we buy out of emotion.
100%. All of us do that.
Right. And so it's, so we are emotional driven people.
Mm-hmm.
We forgive because of emotions. We hold grudges because of emotions. Doesn't matter, even the wars that we see right now, it's because of emotions, right? We're all driven by emotion, and so it would make sense to tie an emotion to your overall goal,
Yeah.
right? Because then that's what's going to keep our driving force. Have you ever been in a situation where you just don't have any more energy, and you just want to give up, like you're done?
Yeah. I have.
Yeah.
I have been. I've been like, it's kind of like that moment where you're like, you just don't know how things are going to work out, and you're discouraged, and your heart is heavy, and you're dealing with all these emotions inside.
Yeah.
And then you just, somehow it's still like, you still go on, right? Like, still move on.
So I remember, we've talked about this in the show before. I remember one time I brought in someone to help me build a business, and it went south fast. Like, it went bad really, really fast. And then what ended up happening was, oh shoot. And I think I just
He ended his life.
did. I end my life? No, I didn't.
Oh, I thought you
my-
were in his.
So what ended up happening was, I brought in this person, and I brought in this person to help me build a business. While she was working with me, she was working somewhere else as well, but telling me that she was exclusive only to me.
Mm-hmm.
Exclusive only to me, that she didn't have a job somewhere else. And so anyways, long story short, it wasn't working out, whatever. And then she didn't serve me, but she'd send me papers. And then there was, from my understanding, is she was coming after the company, MTC Life. And she was going to take the company that I had built, right, and then taken from me, and anyways, it was absolutely horrible. And this was the first time that I had ever been served or given a letter by a lawyer. And so I remember coming home, and I was so scared, because it was my livelihood.
Yeah.
It was the one thing that I had created, was my baby. Can you imagine somebody saying, I'm going to take your child because whatever? For me, MTC Life is my child, right?
Of course. And they just like literally stepped in like a minute
Yeah,
ago, and they're like, this is the entitlement.
I'm taking your company and all this other stuff. So I came home, and I threw myself on the bed. I was crying, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And it was probably one of the scariest moments of my life.
Here's the thing. I'm like, we have to go through emotion, but emotion clouds our judgment, right? Because they did not feel at the time that like, oh my gosh, this is really going to happen.
Yeah,
And it made you fear, like it induced
that's
fear, worry, like, and all these crazy, like, what ifs for the future, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's it. And it was that exact same thing. Like, because it never happened. Now, if anybody serves me, it was like, you have no grounds to stand on, whatever. Like, there were no paper signs. Like, what are you talking about? You can't do anything, right?
Yeah.
But at that time, I was still young, somewhat young in the business. And so I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And that fear, not knowing, just really, really destroyed me. Like, I could not function properly.
Yeah.
So that was how did you get over it?
I cried it out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I totally did. I remember feeling so overwhelmed. I remember feeling like I couldn't do it anymore. And the feeling was that, when you
Can you talk about it?
Well, yeah, because it was related to my dad. For me, it was related to my dad, right?
Okay.
But the feeling was, because that was like, it was final, right? Like, there was no going back around it.
Yeah.
But I remember that whole day I had cried. And then I remember going home, and I remember the feeling of heaviness, the feeling of like, how the frig am I ever going to do this? Like, this is so heavy, because it wasn't only like the fact of, going through the motions with my dad and knowing that, like the end was near, but it was the in-between, was the appointments, the talking to the doctor, the relaying the information that I was receiving to my family. Like, there was so many little things in between that were really hard on me, right?
Yeah.
So I remember this particular day, I just like, I felt like I couldn't do it anymore. And I went upstairs. And when I went upstairs, I just cried. Like, this was a big, ugly cry. This was like, like your body shaking.
Yeah.
Like, it was a lot of emotion behind it. The best way that I can describe it is that, when you feel like you're going to throw up and you have nausea, and then you're trying to get it out and you're gagging, but nothing is coming out.
Yeah.
It felt like that. Like,
Really,
that
yeah?
that is the best explanation that I can give, because it was like you're trying to find relief through, like, trying to get it out.
And is this the first time you've ever experienced anything like this?
That amount of pain, I would say that.
What was Mike doing?
He was downstairs with the kids. I didn't tell him. Like, he didn't know.
Oh.
Like, he was downstairs with the kids.
And you just went upstairs and just let it
Yeah,
out.
sometimes you just need to, right? Like,
Did he know?
After, I think. I'm pretty sure after I did tell him. Like, for sure. I think after I was like I did tell him.
He must have heard you crying upstairs, though.
I don't know if he did, though, because I was like, I think I must have had a pillow. I must have had something that I didn't want to draw attention to myself.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm like, my kids are
And
there
your kids
too,
are there
right?
too, yeah.
Like, sometimes there's things that you have to do to get it all out.
Yeah.
And I had never, I've cried pretty hard in the past, but this was like a next level cry. But it's funny because when that happened, it was that all that emotion was out. And then I remember going downstairs and we had to go somewhere. It was something that we had to do. And we went out and I went out and I was like, and at some point, I don't know if it was that day or like at some point during the day, it was like my mind got clearer. I was able to release that emotion. And a big thing during that season of my life was like finding joy in the journey.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think to associate joy with going through such a traumatic and hard experience, right?
So your story reminds me of mine, which is very interesting. While it's so funny, being in the position that I'm in right now, a lot of people, and not that I draw it, I don't know, I can't explain, but a lot of people look towards you, towards leadership, right? Like if you're strong, put the strong dog in the front and then they will lead the pack kind of thing, right? And so I've always, I guess because of what I do, the developments, the research and all whatever, and then, being in a leadership position, people tend to cut whatever. And so when my father passed away, it was very similar that a lot of people, my kids especially, looked at me for strength. And so I couldn't break down. And maybe it was wrong, maybe it was right, I have no idea. But almost about a year of just holding things in. Mm-hmm. And then for Christmas, that first Christmas, I got given a portrait of my dad used to drive trains. Mm-hmm. And so they found a picture of my dad driving a train. And so they put the train in the background as a sketch. And then with my father's picture, like perfectly, whatever,
Yeah.
right? And they got given to me for Christmas. And so, because he passed on the 26th, so the following year, and then I received it, and I looked at it, and I quickly hid it. And there was a shift in energy, right? I went from like, happy, it's Christmas, we're opening presents, da-da-da-da. And all of a sudden I see this picture and I really quickly brought it down and I just kind of like started looking up and whatever. And I felt...
You felt it coming.
I felt it coming, right? And then Tegan looked at me, she goes, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm like, hey guys, I have to go use the bathroom. I went upstairs and just threw myself on the bed again. And then I was just bawled. Like I could not stop. And it was the first time within, like after a year of my dad's passing, that I let it all out. Like I came back downstairs and my eyes were bloodshot red.
Yeah.
And my kids saw me and they knew what was happening. And my Tegan saw me and she knew what was happening. But it was the first time I felt relieved.
Yeah. It's like maybe you were like bottling
It
all
was.
up in there.
Oh, for an entire year,
and
right?
it like the picture was like the drop
It
that
was.
let everything out.
100%. 100%. That picture was and for the longest time, so I redid the office and I was putting pictures of my family and putting pictures of my mom, and then they're like, do you want that picture? Like the portrait? I'm like, not ready yet. But I think it went 2 or 3 years, and I could not, that was triggering.
Yeah.
It was very interesting. Like, but yeah, so I couldn't look at that picture and whatever. Now I have it, and I'm just looking for a while to put it on. But yeah,
It's interesting, because I feel like I was thinking a lot about this because I'm personally having some issues around. I wouldn't say it's with my dad. So everything with my dad, I experienced so much peace through the process. It was hard, but I feel like it was highly blessed because it wasn't, by the end, I experienced joy and relief. And I experienced what you experienced in the year, perhaps, in a short amount of time. It was like 2 months where... what is that? Seriously, I'm having a heart-to-heart, and I'm just
that was my email. That was so loud.
I know. But it was like I experienced in those 2 months what you experienced over a year. So it was like the intensity of it and all that stuff. Anyway, so now we are here, and I've worked through a lot of triggers, right? Like, for instance, for me at the beginning, parking lots were triggering. And the reason why parking lots were triggering is because we went into a parking lot every day to visit my dad.
Wow.
So that, like, the day after he passed away, or like, yeah, I think it was the day or at some point, we went to the farmer's market and we had to park underground, and literally I could feel like,
Really?
it's crazy because your mind associates things with like traumatic events. So for me, I was like, I went into that parking lot, I associated it to like visiting my dad, right? And then the second thing that was triggering was ambulances, right? Like at a certain point, my dad, we had to call in the ambulance, and I went with the ambulance. So the whole experience of being in an ambulance was, it's weird because emotions are crazy.
Yeah.
Half of it was cool, where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm here, I'm seeing this. It was like like an out body experience almost, where I'm seeing all these things that, like, the healthcare system fascinates me. That's why
You're a nurse.
I'm a nurse,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So things like that, I'm like, wow, that's so cool, right? But then the other part is like, that's my dad. So it was a conflicting, but then I worked through that. And it's funny, I saw an ambulance today and I was okay. And it actually made me think of the EMS person that was so kind, like the kindest person that I had ever met, and was so worried about me and all that. So it like now it's attached to a positive memory. But now my issue is driving on Beauvert. So random, right? So there's this big main street.
Yeah.
Because my parents' house, I have to pass through my parents' house. My parents' house was sold.
Yeah.
Right? So there is like the intersection where there's like a grocery store, the Freshco, like their grocery store.
Yeah, just down the street from here.
Yeah. Every time I'm there, it triggers the thought of the house. And the house is very triggering for me. Now, the house is triggering for me, not because of my dad, but because it signifies the aftermath.
Yeah.
So when you deal with loss, it's not just the loss of a person, which is very, very hard, but it's so hard after. Like, relationships change. Like, you now have to rebuild a relationship with your parent.
Yeah.
You have to now rebuild a relationship with your siblings.
That's interesting.
And you have to potentially rebuild relationships around you. And now you're dealing with like all these kind of things. So for me, there was a lot of hardship that happened during that time of having the house that now I associate with painful memories. So it kind of doesn't have to do with my dad. It's associated to painful memories after. So I kid you not, I'm like driving down the street and I'm like, I feel it, right? And then now what I'm doing, I'm just leaning into the feeling because I'm like, clearly this is showing me something that I have to work through. If I avoid it, it's going to bubble up.
Do you need another pour out?
Of like,
Yeah. Oh my God.
not yet. I don't feel it. I think these are emotions that I have to work through because it's a pain associated to other stuff aside from my dad, right?
So I have a question. Before we get to the questions, we have some comments here.
Yeah.
Do you want to read those?
Sure. Hey, Ed. Good to see you, buddy.
Who is it?
It's Ed.
Oh, we don't want to read those comments.
Shush.
Who cares about
okay.
Ed?
Ed says a tear
joking,
is
I'm
made
joking.
of 1% water, 100%, like 100%. Yep. Okay, and Ed says, a strong person is not the person who doesn't cry. A strong person is the one who's quiet and sheds tears for a moment and then picks up her sword and then fights again. Thank you. That's an awesome inspirational quote. Like, it's true.
Thanks, Ed. Yeah, that's phenomenal.
No, but it is true.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, we love what Ed says. We love what he thinks.
No, he's just teasing you. Stop being a hater, man. Come on.
I'm not being a hater. Why did he move to Calgary?
I don't think he's in Calgary. He's like somewhere in
Alberta.
Alberta.
Yeah, why did he move to Alberta? Right. So who's hating who here? He couldn't rough it out with the Ontarians, like
With the Bramptonians?
With the Bramptonians, he had to like move.
What, you're too good for us? Is that what
That's exactly what happened. That's why Ed and I were like, we don't see eye to eye right now. He left us.
Anyway, what did you want to say? Did you want to say something?
No, I was. Well, yeah. I wanted to see here the comments here. If anybody has any comments on the.
Nobody. Listen, you have like one follower, and I
have more than one follower. I think. Hi, follower.
You're like, hi. You're so funny. After 2 years and you're still bitter, I love you regardless, Miguel.
Oh yeah.
It's been 2 years already. Dang, time flies by, right?
Yeah, time flies by when you're a traitor.
Anyway.
So my question is.
What's your question?
If with all of these emotions that you're going through.
Yeah.
And so again, the podcast is vision to success, right? And success, for those who don't know, the success is X, anything that you consider
It's what's
to be
important to
success.
you.
It's what's important to you, whether it's education, whether it's a family, whether it's starting a business, whether it's getting a promotion, whether it's just being a stay-home dad or a stay-home mom, whatever you consider success to be. Our theory is that every success story always starts with a vision. That's step number one, is always the vision.
Well, you need a place to go. Like,
100%.
how do you go anywhere if you have no idea? You're gonna be wandering.
100%. So it always starts with a vision, where you want to go, where you want to be, and then the end result is the success. And again, whatever that X is. And then this podcast is the two. It's vision to success. We talk about the twos all the
In between.
It's the in betweens, right?
Yeah.
So 7 layers deep, the why is a two.
Yeah.
Is a process. So here's my question to you. When it comes to you and your father, for example, and I want to see if today's principle can be applied to your situation. Today, your situation with your father and the loss of your father, where's the success? Like, where do you want to be? Do you want to be not emotional? Do you want to be strong? Do you want to be able to drive down Boulevard and just and feel good and not cry? Or like, what's your vision there? What's your success? What would you consider to be success there?
I think just working through for me, success would be being able to work through the emotions, and get like my end result would be, yes, getting to a place where I don't even realize that I'm driving down Boulevard. Like,
Okay.
So I like another trigger from like back in the day was after my dad passed away was going downtown Toronto because he was in a hospital in downtown Toronto, right? And I remember the first time where Mike and I, it was like a family event. We went to a Jays game and we were like traveling downtown, and I was like holding my breath because I didn't know how I was going to feel.
Yeah.
Like, it was, if you're doing something for so long and you create that muscle memory, it's like you don't even need to think about what's going on. Your muscle memory already knows and brings that emotion into your body. You don't even have to know, because have you ever experienced where you don't even know why you're feeling anxious or you're feeling off and you're having these weird feelings?
Yeah.
So that's muscle memory. Like, just like riding a bike, right? Like, we create this muscle memory of doing it, so we don't even have to think about it the next time.
Okay.
Our body's the same way with emotions. We attach feelings to those emotions, which is completely normal. Our body goes through this process, and if we do it often enough, we associate, it could be like a smell, it could be a place, it could be something that we do out of habit with this particular emotion. So for me, driving downtown, keep in mind that I don't even know, I feel like I drove downtown for like a month maybe. I can't remember the exact timeline, right? It was the same drive. It was the same time. You actually got me now. But it was...
So keep going. Talk.
So it was the same drive. It was the same like amount of time that I spent in the car. It was the same sort of like overall view where I would see the buildings and all that stuff. Clearly, even if my mind wasn't thinking, my body was like, hey, I've done this before. Let me like bring you these feelings, because it's muscle memory. I don't have to be conscious about it. This has now become subconscious, right? And subconscious is like, wait, this is pain. So this is what I'm feeling. Okay. Anyway, so the purpose of the story is to just kind of like to share that I did experience anxiety. I did have all those emotions. I was able to work effectively through those emotions just by leaning in and not fighting them. Because I'm like, why am I going to fight them? They're going to be there anyway. So I might as well become like acquainted with them. And then it got to the point where I guess my biggest way how I know that I was successful is that I was downtown and I didn't even remember. And I didn't realize that I didn't remember until we were coming back. And when I came back and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the first time that my body didn't react to being here. That I didn't experience anxiety, fear, like not the way that I experience anxiety is by like tingling sensations right here, a knot in my throat, like a feeling of impending doom almost, right? Yeah. And it was the first time that I didn't experience that. So I knew that I had worked through it successfully.
Okay. So going back to my question, actually, we have a comment here by Steph. She says here, my father passed away when I was 12. I have always been strong about it until I did the Ride to Conquer Cancer a few years ago. My trigger is when I see the sweet father-daughter moments or hear about it.
Oh, girl, I get them. I get it. Oh, those are still like, because Joey's in hockey, my trigger, so we lost a lot of grandparents, right? Like we lost my dad, Mike lost his parents.
In a period of a year, right?
No, it was 3 years.
Wow.
So from like my mom-in-law passed away Then my dad-in-law passed away 20 months later. And then my dad, from the moment that my dad-in-law passed away, he passed away 8 months later.
That's insane.
Yeah. So my thing, I guess my trigger is when we go to hockey games for my son or any kind of sporting events and I see grandparents in the stand. I kid you not. I'm like, sometimes I have to choke back tears because I'm like, I feel like a sense of missing out of what my kids could have had. Yeah. But then I for me, what works is I rephrase it. I think about how I want to be there for my grandkids. And I think about them still being there. It's just the fact that I don't see them.
Okay. So you heard that. So here's my question going back. How are you, people? So if you let us know what your why is, or what some of maybe your triggers to getting when you get some emotions. That's what we're right now currently talking about. Mike says the five
ingredients. Yeah, so we watched this movie yesterday. Let me pull it up. We watched this movie. It was like from $1 million to something. I forget, babe. I don't know if you remember the title of the movie.
Babe, what's the name of the title?
Are you there? Babe.
Babe, are you there? And when I say babe, I don't mean Ed.
Oh my gosh.
I just want to make sure. I want to make that clear. When I say babe, I'm talking about Mike.
Anyway, so you got to check it out. It's on Prime. And I love a good inspirational movie, right? So we watched it last night and it's about a migrant worker who was a farmer or like the pig, the harvest, right? Yeah. So they come from Mexico or really they can come from any country.
Are you being racist right now?
Considering that we're Latin, no. Anyway, so
cancel.
Listen, it's a story about our people. So all of South America is our people. But literally, it's so inspirational because he had this dream of becoming an astronaut. It's a big word. To go into space.
The people that go to space.
Anyway.
Astronauta.
And I love the fact that his dad was like, okay, he's like, because he was upset. He's like, why am I still here? I'm picking this fruit and like, I'm tired. I don't want to be here. I'm sunburned. Why do we have to be here? And then he's like, the dad was like, stopped him. And he was like, do you not think that I'm tired? Do you not think that I'm sunburned? And he's like, well, you don't look tired. And he's like, it's because I have a recipe. Right? So he's like, I'm going to give you the recipe. I wrote it down yesterday because I was like, this is so good. This is going to be part of, we're teaching.
What is that?
What? Oh, these are my notes for like anything that kind of comes to mind or like I find inspirational.
Not just, is it a phone? Is it an iPhone?
No, it's not an iPhone. Okay, sorry. So his recipe was like, you find your goal. That's number 1. Ingredient number 2 is you know how far you are. Ingredient number 3 is make a plan. Ingredient number 4 is if you don't know, learn. And then I love the last ingredient. He's like, when you think you've made it, it's probably the time that you have to work harder. And I was thinking about how this applies to what we're talking about is with regards to what you were saying with regards to vision, right? Like if you don't have the vision to know where you want to go, how can you even make a goal? Like, how can you do it, right? And then if you don't have a strong sense of purpose of why you want to be there, then you're not going to make a plan. Okay. Or at any obstacle, you're going to be like, meh, this is too hard. It's not made for me.
Okay. So can I ask the question?
What question?
The one that I had been trying to ask, but you keep interrupting?
Yes. What's your question? Sorry about that.
So going back to, I'm watching a million miles away.
Yeah, that's so good. Hey, if you are watching this and you're on our social media, check that out. It's a good inspirational movie.
And I just got interrupted again.
I'll tell you a story about it after. Anyway, go. My kids yesterday, really quick, they're like rolling their eyes.
Again. Okay, this podcast is about you, Maria. Talk to us.
Today's about me.
Yeah.
No. Okay, anyway, go ahead.
No, now I want to hear. Yesterday you were beating up your kids, and then what happened?
Well, you know Raquel. Raquel has been coming hardcore with the comebacks.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, she's so awesome. Funny. I love her so much.
She's awesome.
But she's 12, and so I yesterday when we were watching, we were talking about the movie, and I'm like, this movie is really, really good. It's about this is what's happening, kind of what I gave you.
Yeah.
And she's like, is it another inspirational movie?
She's so sassy, eh?
But she's so. Oh, I love her.
Oh my gosh,
Hold on, ask your question. Sorry. Ask your question and then we'll go.
Yeah. I said I was at a conference. Anyways, okay. I got 2 stories to tell. Okay, I'm going to tell you this. Okay, so my question. So with you driving down Boulevard and you being triggered and you finding this and you finding that and having all these emotionals coming up and whatever, can finding out your why help you achieve what you're trying to get past?
Yes.
Or are we talking about 2 different things here?
It can.
It can?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I wish you wouldn't have said I can't. So here we go. So let's go through this then. So you are driving down Boulevard. Every time you drive down Boulevard, going past Fortino's, you think of your parents' house, but you want to, the success, the vision is you want to be in a better position.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Why?
Like, why do I want that?
Yeah. Like, why do you want to be over that? Because your vision, your success, what you consider to be success is being able to drive down Boulevard and not have these emotions anymore.
So I feel like I kind of have done the different levels for this one.
For this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this happened a while ago when I did grieving counseling.
Okay.
And what one of the thoughts that he triggered is that he talked about how these triggers come from a place of love.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, girl. They come from a place of love, right? So for me, my biggest why to work through it is because I want to embrace the pain because of love. Because if it wasn't for loss, I would never realize my amount of love that I had. And that's not just towards my dad, but it's towards my whole family, if that makes sense. And like within my family, there's difficult relationships going on right now, right? And it's so easy to focus. Like you talked to me last week where I was like, no, I don't want to deal with anybody kind of thing, right? And I was in a hard place. I was in a place where I lacked empathy.
Yeah.
But I think in this week I'm in a better headspace and being in a place where I can remember the love is my why.
And if you don't know what happened last week, so we were I was very surprised in how you answered, and you answered very quickly, and I was like, this is not you.
Oh, last week.
Yeah, so I asked,
I was in a place of lack of empathy.
Oh,
I was having a bad weekend.
whatever it was, you
Yeah.
were just like not having it. Your Latina came out, and then so we were talking about. I'm like, if the person that you're struggling with and having this relationship with, if they came up to you and said, hey, I want to work things out, and you're like, whatever, I don't care, and they would just walk away, and I'm like, that does not
That's not
sound
me.
like you at all, especially in a podcast where we're talking about human progression, and you're just like, I don't want to talk to you, and just walk away. And so we ended the podcast, and I was like, where in the world did that come from? Like, I know, but again. And this is the interesting thing is, right? Because we always circle back to this, which is bettering yourself every morning. Mind, body, and soul, reading your scriptures, being active, being fit, and the mind, educating the mind and self-help and whatever. And because you were able to read and learn about all these personal progression events, you became self-aware, and then you realized that what you said was wrong.
Yeah.
It was wrong,
I
right?
did.
Okay, it was wrong.
But you know what? I feel like I needed that lesson.
Okay.
I needed sometimes we need a contrast to show us what we're doing wrong in order for us to like lean into doing right.
Yeah.
So I was grateful for that moment, and it was caught in video.
It was definitely caught in video. There was a lot of anger.
That's why this week's podcast was supposed to be on anger, because he was like, let's focus on anger. I think we need to talk about that.
That's exactly how it came up. I was like, yeah, let's talk about anger management next week.
But hey, like, we're human beings, right?
I know,
and I'm like,
and then I feel that sometimes we don't give ourselves enough grace, like, you know what? I made mistakes. I'm aware. Let me figure it out and all these different things, and then go from there.
Yeah, agreed.
So we have a couple of comments here on Facebook. So just to ask you guys a couple of questions. Oh, geez. All right. Here we go. Ed again. So Ekem, how are you? Love you. And Ed, it says here, what does he say?
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
You did your corrective eye.
Are you is your eyes? I know I did corrective eye surgery, guys. Best money I ever spent. Seriously. Okay. When we deal with generalities, we shall never succeed. When we deal with specifics, we shall rarely have failure. When performance is measured, performance improves. When performance is measured and reported, the rate of performance accelerates. By Thomas S. Monson. Yeah. True that.
So. Okay. So question. So one of the things that we talked about in the on the description there, and that we said on the podcast, that the why is rocket fuel, right? when you know your why, it can actually catapult you to new levels that will greatly increase the outcome of your performance.
Yeah. It gives you a higher purpose. It's not like it helps you not to just focus on the here and now and the activity that you're doing. It helps you to see the activity that you're doing for that higher purpose.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No.
Okay. So I'm reading this book with regards to the power of why. And he gave this awesome example. He said, if you ask to, so you're walking along and you see somebody who's building a brick wall, right?
Okay.
And they're out all day. They're getting, it's a job. They're getting paid. It's what they like said they were going to do. And you ask them, oh, hey, what are you doing? And he's like, yeah, I'm just building this wall. I get paid, whatever. Like, it is what it is kind of thing, right? And then you go to the second person, and there's a second person who's still building a wall. And you ask him, like, hey, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm building a cathedral. This is going to be a magnificent place. It's going to be amazing. It's going to do this, that, and the other, right? So both of their mindsets are completely different. One is focused on the here and now. He wasn't enjoying the process at all because he's like, whatever. It is what it is. Like I just... Probably a better job came by, he would drop it. A better opportunity came by, better drop it. Anything popped up in his life that was hard, this is not for me, I'm done, right? As opposed to the person who saw the higher purpose, this cathedral that he was like, I get to be a part of this. I'm doing something. Now, something hard is going to happen. The likelihood of him just dropping it is less.
Yeah.
There's actually, when people are involved in a higher purpose and you have like a vision, you have a collective vision or something.
Yeah.
If somebody else comes and gives you a particular better offer that maybe has to do with something that is not aligned with your vision, you're not going to take it because you're going to be like, this doesn't serve me. It's not aligned with what I want to do.
Yeah.
As opposed to if you don't have a vision and you don't have a why, then you're going to be like, all right. But then it's going to be another dead end.
And I think that's so this is where I was going, right? It's we're all going to come across challenging moments. We're all going to come across times where we're just going to like feel like giving up and it's just, this is not worth it. If you don't have a strong enough, clear why as to why you're doing it, you're going to quit. And there is Les Brown. He always talks about, is it worth it? Question. At some point in time, and again, whether it's a stay-home mom or dad, whether it's getting your education, whether it be like starting a business, whether it be getting that next promotion, it doesn't matter what it is. At some point in time in this journey, you are going to ask yourself, is this worth it? And depending on how you ask this question will determine whether or not you'll continue moving forward.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Okay. So you work out all the time, right? You have these times that you and you work out at awkward times sometimes, right?
I do, yeah.
Okay. Is it worth it?
Oh, 100%.
Why?
I want to be healthy. I think one of the biggest things is I want to live long. I see and I hear stories of all these dads passing before their time. And obviously none of this is in your control. Like there's a higher power that will determine this. But I mean, I don't want to contribute to me leaving the earth prematurely. And so I want to be able to walk my daughters down the aisle. And I want to be able to see them. I want to be a grandfather. I want to be able to enjoy my children's children, right? So that's my driving force is to like sacrificing now and enjoy later.
I love that because nothing that you said was associated with the way you looked, right? Because I'm like the way that we look is sometimes so finicky we can't control it, but everything is associated with a higher purpose for you as your family.
And there is a secondary, so that is my primary.
Yeah.
The secondary as to why I go to the gym is it is because of that. I like growing up. I remember having all these mentors, and they all used to work out.
Yeah.
Most of them. And I remember how they would tower over you, their big arms, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, and they were my Supermen, they were my superheroes, right? And so I like feeling confident, and a lot of the times confidence comes from the way that you look, right? And so I like feeling confidence. I like being able to walk into a room and just just feeling like, okay, this guy goes to the gym. It has nothing to do with look at me now, look how great I am. Has nothing to do. I love feeling confident. I love being able to stand on stage and just perform, having the energy, having that fitted shirt, and just feeling good about myself. I really, really enjoy that. But that it is still on my vision board, my primary is my children.
Yeah.
My secondary is I need to feel confident when I'm on stage. I don't want to feel unfit and I'm like breathing heavy and I'm like, look at this guy's about to pass out. I hate that feeling.
Yeah, I you know what? Even though it is, because you're right. I'm
Yeah.
the same way. Like, it looks is nice because
Yeah.
it does, but like when it becomes the primary focus, that's when it gets hard.
Exactly.
And even with your second one, you focus on the feeling,
Yeah.
feeling of confidence,
Yeah.
and it's the action of working out that
Yeah.
gives you that feeling of
Yeah,
confidence.
Yeah. So I have a very controversial question to ask you.
Please do.
Actually, before
Hold on, let's see. Miguel's muscles are so big they can poke all the way out here in Alberta.
look at this guy trying to butter me up. Whatever. There's nothing that you can say, Ed. You're in Alberta. I'm in Ontario.
Anyway, what's your question?
You made that choice. You're not worth it. Right here we go.
Oh my god.
No,
Oh my goodness.
no, it's not that you're not worth it.
Of course you are.
Yeah, of course you are.
He's like, give him a gun show.
I know.
Like, this is for you, Ed.
Alberta is somewhere over there or over there. It's somewhere here.
Oh my gosh.
But I'm just joking. Ed, you're worth it. Somewhat. Okay. So I have a very controversial question. This has actually nothing to do with today, but I want to get your take on this.
Okay.
And I might get canceled after I ask this question.
I'm looking for a new podcast. We'll do it still here. Miguel will still be in the background, but he won't be on air. Just kidding.
It is. So your take on the Barbie movie.
Oh, I loved it.
Did you?
I did. Did you watch it already?
Yeah, I watched it last night.
You didn't like it. Tell me why you didn't like it.
Okay.
If you've seen it, let us know what your take on it is. I personally thought I wasn't going to like it, but then when I watched it, I changed my tune. Okay, go ahead. I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
Okay, so it's
because just say them.
No, I
just say
have to be very careful what I say because it's about getting canceled.
Okay.
So, and we had a family discussion afterwards.
Yeah.
We had a family discussion afterwards. So I did like the movie.
Okay.
I did like the movie. And I also liked the message.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. What was the message?
So the message that I got there was, woman empowerment and that, women are just as important as men and all these different things. Right? So, so I want to be careful that everybody understands that I don't have anything against the message. So I agree. I liked the movie. I gave it an 8. Right. It wasn't the best movie that I've seen in my life, but it was a good movie. It was a really, really good movie. I love the jokes. It was very, very well created. And this is what I'm having a hard time with.
I wonder if you and I have a hard time with the same thing. Because I like the movie. I have a hard time with a couple of things. Okay. And it has to do more with like, okay.
Yeah, let me go first.
Yeah, I want to see if it's the same thing.
Let me go first and then see whatever. Okay. So we're talking about the Barbie movie here. We both watched it separate times. I watched it last night with my family. I liked the movie. I liked the message of the woman empowerment and all these different things. I actually kind of happy how Barbie left without Ken. I almost she needed to find herself before she can progress forward. I whatever. The one thing that I'm having a hard time with, and this is where, I'm open to change my mind and I'm open to listening, whatever, was, the mom of the daughter.
Yes.
So they were in the Barbie house.
Yeah.
And with weird Barbie.
Okay.
And she does her monologue.
Is the monologue?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm having a hard time with that monologue.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why.
Okay. Let me remind myself of what it is. Tell me why, and I'm just gonna pull it up because I'm sure everybody and their cousin loved it. So
yeah. So it was a good movie. Again, I approved the message. I enjoyed the monologue. Mm-hmm. The hidden, and maybe I picked up wrong. Maybe I was on the defense, or I don't know what it was. But I'm having a hard time with the secondary or thirdary message that was there hidden, is that women, it's a one-way struggle. Mm-hmm. That women struggle because of man, which I agree.
Mm-hmm.
But where I'm having a hard time is that it's a one-way streak.
Is it the one that says you have to answer for men's bad behavior?
Whatever that monologue was, it was a big monologue.
Okay, so it's so there's the first point. Okay, keep sharing. I have my thoughts on it too.
Okay, so where it is and again I have to be very, very careful here. So she did this phenomenal monologue, which I love and I approve, whatever, that, the women have to struggle and then the men suppress them and all these different things. Where I have a struggle with is that this mentality that's only a one-way streak, that women struggle because of man, but there's no such thing as a man struggling because of woman.
Okay, so you're ready for my point, or are you?
So one more thing.
Yes.
One more thing, right? And so again, I agree 100% with the movie. I agree with the woman's struggle. I do. I really, really do. I think they're women are not our mothers, and they shouldn't be acting like our mothers, and they should be free to do whatever. I think that we have advanced as society. I think before in the days, women were oppressed. Oh my gosh, you couldn't open up a bank account. You couldn't drive without a man's permission. Like, you couldn't vote. You couldn't do all these different things. So we've come a long ways to empowering women, right? And I think we may or may not, and I don't know, whatever. There's some stuff to struggle, like, that we're whatever. But where I struggle with is the fact that it's only the woman that are struggling because of man. I think that men, to a certain point, are now struggling because of a woman. For example, if you accuse me of inappropriate behavior,
everybody sides with me.
I am 100% crucified.
100%. It's popular opinion.
I don't have a say. And if you are wrong, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
A woman accused a man, and I am done. I am done. If we are charged with the same crime, because of a woman, you will get a much lesser sentence than me automatically. If you and I are, divorced and fighting for kids, you will get the kids.
It's easier for a woman to get the kids than the dad.
The dad has to prove his case why he has rights to see their own children, right? It's if they're now, especially nowadays, there is this expectations that men have to, for a woman to go after a man. You see all these podcasts and interviews and whatever. My man has to, 500,000, 200,000, and whatever money that he brings in has to be shared amongst the family. But if a woman makes money, it's her money, and it's her, and she's a boss baby, like she's a boss girl, right?
Mike always calls it the double standard.
Right. And so I now, mind you, again, that movie was not to highlight a man's struggle, right? I 100% understand the movie. I get it. Women struggled a lot of the times because of man. I don't like the secondary message that it's only a one-way thing. That there is no such thing as it made men out to look like a really bad guy. And I don't know if, again, I could be wrong. I might be missing something. I don't know, like that's what I'm having trouble with.
So I agree with you. I personally do feel the same way. Okay. I feel like I'm raising boys, right? And so my mindset always goes towards my boys. And I always think, what would happen if my boys get accused of doing something? Yeah. Right? There's no like, oh, maybe the girl is like not like maybe the girl's wrong. No, absolutely. My boys are responsible for that happening, even if it didn't happen. Like, obviously, it wouldn't happen. They're my boys, right? Yeah. My problem is the same thing as yours, because I agree with you in the sense that women have to struggle a lot with biases, right? Oh, yeah. And we still kind of do with certain things, but it's a human behavior issue. Yeah. And when we kind of categorize and kind of have an us versus you mentality, that's where problems come in. Yeah.
And it was painting all men the same way. Like, I mean,
I have a problem with that too, because I'm like, I always think of Mike and I always think of my boys, and I'm like, Mike is like an awesome guy. Yeah. My kids, the way that we're raising them to be like respectful young men. And I do believe the majority of men are good. Yeah. Right? We're just different. And sometimes we don't appreciate our differences. And for some reason, myself included, like, back in the day, I had this expectation that Mike needed to be like me, which is not true.
Right.
Right. But I do agree with you. I feel like we're in this pendulum effect. And
Yeah.
right now that men, it's like you have to defend yourself to be like, to have like these things that men are kind of still expected, but
Yeah.
not like kind of in the background.
And to see women's side here, and I'm going to swing the pendulum the other way. Tay and I, we went on Saturday to go watch Jagged Little Pill.
Okay. I don't know what
It's
it's
a
about.
Broadway. It's an off-Broadway show. Alanis Morissette.
Yes,
You
I know who she is.
Okay, so it's a play. It's an off-Broadway or Broadway show that it's the entire songs
Yeah.
are songs from her albums,
Okay.
which is actually pretty cool, right? So they've been able to extract all these songs,
Yeah.
create a play, and use the songs as the musical pieces ensemble, right? Which is amazing. And the storyline was there: a girl gets raped,
Okay.
right? Sorry for using triggering words here. So a girl gets violated,
Yeah.
and nobody believes her.
It's so hard. That's the other side,
So-
right?
And that is the other side, right? So nobody believes her, and a friend,
Sorry, that's my phone.
oh, and then a friend of the girl, they start a rally and a protest. We believe you, and all these different things, but nobody else believes her, right? Not the, and it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. But she, people started believing her when another guy came in and said, "Yeah, I witnessed it."
Yeah.
And he saw, and it was his friend that they was doing that horrible act and whatever. And then he's like, "I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I should have stopped it, but I didn't. But I did come forward and make it right." She goes, "That," and then this is the interesting thing. She goes, "That's not the problem." She goes, "The problem is that nobody believed me when I said it." And goes, "People started believing me when you, a guy, came out and said it." So that's the other side,
Yeah.
right?
So messy.
And so it is very, very messy. And so I do understand that the women's, and I saw that and I agree with that, right? And so I do recognize and see that women do struggle because of some things that we do as men in society. I just don't think it's that clear cut, and then it's just one sided. I think it's men also do struggle, and we're suffering in silence. A lot of the suicides, men, right? Shootouts, right? It tends to be men. Right? There's this expectation, so you have to be strong. And so when we have mental health issues, it's not okay for us to cry. We're the hunters. We're the providers. We have to be strong. And so there's this stigma that's been put on men.
Yeah.
And then we blow our top, and we're like, that's it. And then we turn to violence, right? With all these different things. And so I don't know. So that was my only struggle with the movie. I really liked it. I think everybody should see it. I just think that it's
No, I'm glad that you voiced it out, because I think sometimes we avoid talking about these difficult topics because we're worried about the opinion of others, or if others are going to be offended by what we say.
Yeah.
But then how are people supposed to know like how you feel about it, right?
Yeah.
We don't have to all agree, that's fine. But I do kind of see the struggle behind it. Sometimes I cringe about posts that I see with regards to men.
Yeah.
And the reason is because I'm raising boys. I have a husband,
Yeah.
right? And I'm like,
I got 5 boys.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like, if we're not willing to stand up for our boys, like my boys and my husband, then who is? Like,
Yeah.
I never share anything that's derogatory, even as a joke. I actually do not like, and this is like a Mike and I thing. I don't like when people refer to Mike as my other kid. He's not. And I've always said that. I was like, he's not my kid. He is my equal. Like, I have never felt like he was my kid in any shape or form. And I find that I don't like it. I personally
wow.
don't like it because he's not a kid.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, Mike is a man.
he's a man's man.
He's a man's man.
Yeah, but these kind of things are so often said, and they're
Yeah.
sometimes said jokingly, with lighthearted.
Yeah.
But I never laugh and I never take it. I'm never like, no, he's not a man, because then people are like, oh, you know what you're doing, or you see sometimes these like reels or these things about like I don't know, things that are that how men behave, and like how women are like, I'm not your mother kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And I guess maybe the way is because I'm the other person. You know how men, like, you complain about men not being able to find anything, or like, especially your keys.
Yeah.
I'm that person. I'm the one that can never find my keys. I'm the one who leaves my socks everywhere, right? Like there are these certain things that I think if we feel that way and we're sharing that content, then what happens? How can you share something that you agree, but then feel any different between your husband and your kids?
Yeah, and then the reason why I voiced it, and we had a family discussion afterwards, and we sometimes do this. We talk about the movie, what we like. We always rate the movies as a family and stuff. But I was very conscious about it because I don't want my daughters thinking that men are the enemy.
Well, and your boys,
and
you don't want your boys
so
like
that was the second part.
Yeah.
But my very first priority was my girls, because
yeah.
I want them to understand that yes, while there are boys that will use you, that will suppress you, that are punks that are just while there are boys that are just not good, your job is to find the boys that are good.
Yeah.
And that it's because if we start telling the boys that all women are bad, we're doing society inhumane, right? We're doing them. But if we tell the girls that all boys are bad,
it's
then
the same thing.
We're destroying that as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when we talk, we cannot paint everybody with the same brush. And so that conversation that I had with my girls were like, just mamas, I call them mamitas, right? I'm like, mamitas, just make sure that this is not all boys. That in this particular case, in this storyline, yes. But in that movie, Ken suffered as well.
He did. And you know what my favorite part about the movie
Mm-hmm.
was? So initially I was worried about going and watching the movie because I don't like movies that degrade kind of like or make men look less than. I believe that I think all of us are at the end of the day do have the same belief. Yeah. I believe that both of us are worth it. I believe that like we just have different talents, and sometimes our expectations to be too much like the opposite sex get in the way to seeing other people's like natural abilities. Yeah. Anyway, my worry about going into the movie that it was going to be like a kind of like a hating of men type thing, right? Yeah. When I was watching it, and initially I was a little bit like, I don't know how this is going to go. But my favorite part is at the end with Ken. Yeah. When she was like, you don't need me to figure out who you are. Yeah. Right? Like you can figure out on your own and figure out who Ken is, because a lot of things that Ken did was based on Barbie. Yeah. His whole focus was Barbie. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And then in reality, she was trying to figure out herself, and then she turned around and she wasn't. Like, it wasn't just an all hating towards Ken. Yeah. Ken was actually like, no, you need to figure yourself out too.
Yeah, I did. And I really enjoyed that about the movie, that at the end, it was that very thing that it highlighted in the middle of the movie that she didn't pay any attention to him. And that's, for a guy, that's very hurtful. Yeah. Right? Like, I mean, when we have someone who we love, now in this particular case, I don't know if they were husband or wife, boyfriend and girlfriend. I don't know what it was. But it seemed like they were a couple, right? But he wasn't getting any attention, any love.
I don't think they were not a couple. He liked her, but she was single. To my understanding, she looked like she was single. But he had a love for her. And so did the other Ken. The two Kens were fighting. Like, I think they were all fighting to get her attention.
I think they were together because she said it towards the end. She goes, I'm sorry that every night was a girl's night and there was no time for you.
But it was as a friendship. It wasn't as more than that. He wanted more than that, but it was as a friendship.
Yeah, if it was just a friendship, then yeah, she didn't owe him anything, right? 100%. If they were a couple, right?
If they were a couple, then it needed to be different, right? Yeah. But they weren't a couple. They were in a friendship. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Anyways, I really did enjoy the movie, and I would highly recommend everybody goes. And if you haven't seen it, go see it. It was a phenomenal. It was a great movie. I want to make sure that not all guys are like that. Yeah. Right?
I would like to encourage everyone to be mindful of what we say, especially if you're raising boys. Yeah. Right? And again, like, obviously I have 2 girls, 2 boys, and I love all my kids. Mm-hmm. And I do the same thing with my girls with regards to like, this is how a man should treat you. Yeah. These are the qualities that you need in a man. Yep. And this is like, and if they're not meeting, then this is not a person that you need in your life. Yep. It's the same thing with my boys. I tell my boys, a girl should never hit you. Yeah. If I tell you not to hit a girl should never come and hit you. That's not appropriate. I'm the same way. Yeah. And then the other thing is like, this is how a girl should treat you. If the girl's not treating you this way, then this is not the example. Like, this is not who you should be with. You don't see me treating you that way. Yeah. So why should you put yourself through something like that?
Yeah. No, I do. I tell my boys the exact same thing. I have the 5 boys and the
2 girls.
the 2 girls, but the older boys, I'm able to have these conversations with them. And anytime that and they haven't done this, one of my boys, there was a bunch of girls that liked him, and then he was like, "Oh, what do I pick? What I pick? Or what do I do? What I do?"
Oh my gosh.
And then I'm like, "Relax." And then I was very quick to stop that mentality. Is like,
Yeah.
listen, today you're the hot camaraderie, tomorrow you're not, right?
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that if whoever likes you or doesn't like you, you gotta treat them with respect, right?
Yeah.
And so this is not a buffet where you're choosing chicken fried rice one time and then you're you're picking wings tomorrow, right? Like this is not that. You have to be mindful of people's feelings. So I'm trying to do my part as much as well to raise good boys and respectful boys.
Yeah.
So when they get painted with the same brush, I do have a trouble. I do have a struggle with that as well. So
Yeah. I can see it.
okay, but a good movie overall. So hopefully I don't get canceled after this. Let's see what happens.
I think it'll be fine. It's okay to have different opinions, right? I think it's
You and I know that.
I know
Society doesn't think that.
I know, but this is what I think our viewers are awesome anyway, right? But hopefully we'll all try to see other people's perspective and be like, you know what? Whatever thought processes that they have, it's fine. If that's how they want to live their life, that's fine.
I'm still a good person, people. So contrary to popular belief,
By popular my belief.
I'm still a good person, I think.
Yeah.
Anyways, all right. Let's see here.
All right.
Oh, wait, before we get to this, we got some comments on Insta. Let me see.
You're getting
here.
canceled. Unfollow him. You're one follower.
I'm
Just
kidding.
kidding.
I'm getting canceled on Insta. It says here, I have twin girls and boys, so I see both sides. Thank you for that. I don't want my daughters growing up depending on men. Yes. And I don't want my sons growing up thinking and women will cater to every single need. I don't think there were, so Steph says that she doesn't think that there were couples either. Yeah. So if that's the case, no, I love your thoughts on this. Thank you. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, so we have a couple of agreements with you that they weren't couples. If they were couples, then I probably would have had something else to say that.
If there were a couple, no, they were not a couple. You know what? Human relationships are just messy. Let's just be okay with figuring ourselves out and figuring out how to be the best, kindest people towards one another.
What?
That's the look my kids give me all the time. What are you talking about?
You're just rambling on right now.
100%.
But no, and again, so thank you so much. Hang on one second. All right, here we go. Thank you so much for logging in, guys.
That's it.
So make sure that you like, subscribe. We got a bunch of stuff here up there. Like you can see, where is it? There we go, right there. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Twitter, social medias, all that other stuff. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow us. So when we go live, you are the first ones to get notified. Next week, we're talking about...
Where's your paper?
Anger management.
Clearly.
For Maria.
I need it. I need all the help that I could get. Mike will be appreciative, I'm sure.
Oh, Mike is the one that submitted that request.
I know. Anonymous. Just kidding. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching and being here with us.
Absolutely. Love you guys. Thank you so much for everything you do.
All right. Bye.
Later.
Get a minute, don't know. Get a minute of your time. Get a minute of your First you gotta live right, and I'm never gonna let you out of my side. I've been knocked out, was a nice try, but I guess I get to keep my head on this time. God of the creation, the relations I've got, the only one that keeps me safe, the only one you should trust. For sure it ain't right that I have checked the speck of dust from all of its side. Fall down, that from my height, cause I didn't see the plank I have in my eye. You hear and you said when no one's to be found. What keeps you eased out? What takes you off your mind?
Yes, you want this, I want this. Everybody in this, we should have it. Stop illusions, it's in your hands. Show yourself, reveal it to them. Take the time to recognize it. You won't leave me even if I tried it. You're the artist in the mess, and happily perform the new in your hands.
I show that I live right, and I'm never gonna let you out of my side. I've been knocked out, was a nice try, but I guess I get to keep my head on this time. God of the creation, the relations I've got, the only one that better. For sure it ain't right that I have checked the speck of dust from all of its sides. Hold down, that from my height, cause I didn't see the plank I have in my eye.